Welcome back to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy, Mike C-Roc. I appreciate you guys being here. I'm so thankful for your support of the What Are You Made Of movement and podcast. And I can't do what I want to do, what my mission is, without you guys. And so first of all, I always like to start the show with gratitude and let you know that I really appreciate you. And thank you for being here. And please tell a friend, family member, coworker about the show, about the movement, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or my YouTube channel, Mike C-Roc Ciorrocco. All of these are up so you can watch them as well as listen. So today's guest, guys, is Peter Taunton. He's a pioneer in the fitness industry. And guys, you know I like fitness. You know, I wear the tight shirts and all. So in 2003, he had a vision for Snap Fitness to create an affordable 24/7 result-driven gym differentiated from the impersonal, expensive big box experience. Today, there are Snap Fitness franchises in 2,500 locations in 26 countries. I mean, that's just phenomenal, man. Just his numbers. And Taunton, CEO of Lift Brands, didn't stop there. He is an expert in understanding consumer desires and fulfilling them. In recent years, he has acquired and founded several brands to round out the consumer fitness experience, including 9Round, Farrell's, Yoga Fit, Steel Fitness, Fitness on Demand, just to name a few. So I can go on and on and on because it looks like you've accomplished a lot, but I will say that there's some of the accomplishments here that, hitting Entrepreneur 500, Inc. 5,000, Top Global and Franchise 500. I can go on and on and on. So let's just get to the point. I want to find out what you're made of, Peter. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me. My pleasure.
So, you know how the show starts. I went into that on the pre-show in the green room, quote unquote. We always ask our guests, what are you made of?
Yeah. That's such a great question, and as an entrepreneur who's been through a lot and experienced failure and experienced success, it's that question. It's hard to know where to start, right? I can tell you, one of the first lessons I learned at a really early age. I'm the youngest of 7 kids. I grew up in the Midwest. I have an identical twin, and my father had a small grocery store in our hometown, and my dad was the kind of guy that you were either playing sports, you were in school, or you were working for him, right? He was a firm believer, old school guy, man's man, had a lot of grit, and he felt he kept us busy, which kept us out of trouble, which is, a guy like me, got a little ADD going on. I needed it, right? Keep me focused. Yep. So for me, one of the biggest lessons I learned before I talk about my setback was really learning that if you want something, you got to go get it. And I used to sell popcorn at my dad's grocery store when I was 8 years old. And that's when I started, 8 years old. And I remember one day my dad walks past me. He walks about 40 feet past me. He stops in his tracks. He pivots and he turns, comes right back towards me, right? And I'm thinking, oh shit, here we go, right? 8-year-old. And my dad stops. He says, hey son, how's business? And I getting ready to give him my 8-year-old dissertation on why business was slow, right?
Yeah.
And
full of BS, right?
he stops me about 15 words into it, and he says, son, it's slow because you're sitting behind the counter. You got to get, if you want to increase your business, you got to get out from behind that counter. You got to go ask people if they want some popcorn. You got to go get it. Right now I'm looking at him, my eyes are as big as pool balls, right? And I got out from behind that counter from that point forward, and my sales doubled. I literally 8 years old. So there's a couple of things that you had to overcome your fear, because I was kind of a shy kid, going up to a complete stranger, pulling on their coat sleeve, saying, hey, would you like some popcorn? I just popped it. It's delicious. As simple as that sounds, I was scared shitless doing that at 8 years old, right?
Yeah.
But lo and behold, these people would follow me back to my popcorn stand and they'd buy popcorn. So yep. The lesson learned there, brother, is look, if you want something, go get it. And that lesson today, that's been my battle cry for my entire life. The second side of it is never be afraid of failure. And you and I spoke about a little bit earlier. I know a lot of people that have accumulated some great wealth, and north of 50 million, self-made guys. Every one of us will tell you about overcoming adversity, and will also tell you that the learning curve is in the abyss of adversity, of when you're right there in the middle of a firestorm, challenging moments. That's where all the lessons are learned. So my greatest lesson, talking about, what am I made of? Well, I tell you what I'm made of. Being self-made makes a big difference. When I started in business, if you'd met me 35 years ago, I'd have been giving you a towel and a locker key. So I am as self-made as they get. I was making $16,000 a year, and I had an opportunity to turn around a failing club. So that's how I got into the fitness business. Did I know then I was going to build one of the largest wellness brands in the world? Well, of course not. Did I know that I was capable of doing it? Of course I did, right? But I would never have told you, hey, Michael, I think I'm going to build one of the largest wellness brands in the world. People would laugh me out of the room. But as it happens, and those lessons along the way were just, invaluable. And, my biggest whiff by far was creating this behemoth of a brand, multiple brands. So when you have this universe of clubs, you start trying to be really vertically integrated. And I wanted to create my own back office software, because when you got 6,000 locations subscribing to your license, keep in mind today, I'm paying a third party for a license, right? I said, look, I went to my IT team and I said, why can't we create our own back office software? Why can't we do it? And why can't we have it be more intuitive and more and geared more for what our needs are? And my IT team, my chief technical officer said, Peter, we can do this without any question. Well, I surround myself with smart people. I believe it. I've never wrote one line of code, so I couldn't tell you. I just asked the question, can we do it? And I trust my team. Long story short, they said it was going to take about a year and about $1.5 million. We did it for 4 years. I probably spent $5 million and we still didn't have it. Okay. And now today we tried to deploy it. And we're cutting back and going in another direction with an off-the-shelf software. So the lesson learned there is, look, stay in your lane. There's some things that you should do, and we did. Payment processing and all these other things, we own that piece of the business. Real estate, right. Construction, we own that. But you know what? Just stay in your lane. Don't go out and try to be everything. Just create some great strategic partnerships, and that's what we've done.
Right. So when it took you 4 years to finally pull the plug on that project?
And it was through sheer frustration. And I just said, look, you know what, because a company like mine, I've sold my company. I founded it and I sold 40% at one point. And I always talk about that when I'm mentoring entrepreneurs. Everybody comes at me with these business plans. And, I massage the business plans along the way, but then we start talking about what's your exit strategy? And a lot of people don't think about their exit strategy. And I say, look, a business plan has how you get into it and how you exit. And so for me, I took one bite of the apple. I sold 40% for about 47 million. And then 5 years later, I sold about 14% for about the same number. And so today I own 45%. I actually sold 19%. And today I own about 44%. If I had to do over again, lesson learned there, I would have sold more. Okay. Because as soon as I gave control of the company, it was a game changer. Okay. Yeah. Regardless of what private equity says, these are big private equity companies, billion-dollar players. They don't give a shit about, they've never sold a franchise. They've never sold a membership. They've never given a tour. So it makes life interesting when you gotta sit back and watch people, make some really drastic material changes to your company.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine.
Great lessons, though.
What's the difference between someone that comes in, starts a gym and, franchise and has 4 or 5 locations versus 2,500?
Well, you know what? It's at the end of the day, the product to the consumer should look and feel the same, whether you have 1 or whether you have 2,500. It's like McDonald's. It's McDonald's. It doesn't matter what McDonald's you go into. You're consistently going to get a very similar French fry, and the burgers are going to taste the same because they're, in my opinion, there's no one better than those guys at what they do. Mm-hmm. The service piece of it might be different. You know what I mean? Because some people, you go through the drive-through. Some people say, "Hey, thanks for coming in. What can I get you? What would you like today?" They're really friendly. They're bubbly. You get somebody else who say, "What do you want?" Right. And then they just about throw the bag at you as you're driving away, Yeah. So the experience may be different, but the food should taste the same. So just like in the health club business, if you've got one club, when the member walks in the door, they should be greeted, "Hey, how's it going? Have a great workout." You know what I mean? And when they leave, "Thanks for coming in. Hope to see you tomorrow." If you can't have that little exchange, that's a strike against you. If your equipment is not in great working order, if your club is not clean, if you can't talk the basics about helping somebody get to the promised land, and that would be if you want to be lean, whatever your fitness goals are, I got to be able to chart a path for you to get you there. And it can't be, oh, you're going to eat carrot sticks and celery. Today it's so much more sophisticated than that.
Yep.
There's so much more great technology out there, and we're so much smarter today at getting fit and getting ripped that it's not as tough as it used to be, because there's a science to how you attack that stuff. If you're looking for vascularity and lean, where you don't feel like you have to eat your arm off half the day.
It's just a matter of sticking to it. I mean, being consistent with it. That's what it is.
Yeah, consistency. Yeah. So, one club, 2,500 clubs, it doesn't matter. The product should be the same. Obviously, managing 2,500, some days it's like herding cats, right?
Right. But what was the difference that put you into that situation where, like you said, you have 4 and then you get to, let's say, 10, 20, 30. Yeah. And did you have something in mind of where you wanted to get to? 2,500 was a number, or was it higher than that? Are you still going for more?
Yeah, I'm still going for more. I mean, and we do it through acquisition. But for me, the first 20 years of my health club experience, when I said 35 years ago, I would have been giving you a towel and a locker key. That's no joke. And that was one club in a town that I grew up in. And I did that for 20 years. And one of the guys that had worked for me for about 10 years, when I'd sold that company, I had gone off and I was going to do something else. And he said, look, would you build a club for me? At the time I had 7 clubs and I had sold them all. And he said, I don't like who you sold the business to. Would you ever consider building me a club? Let me run it. I know you're not interested in putting in the long hours that you've been doing for the last 20 years, but would you consider it? And I said no to him about 4 or 5 times. And then I said, look, what if I took out the swimming pool? What if I took out the racquetball courts, the aerobic? So this club that was 40,000 square feet, as I started condensing it and taking out things like childcare and swimming pools, pretty soon it was 5,000 square feet. And instead of 50 employees, I had 2, right?
Right.
So
right.
It was just, and I had everything in that club that you needed to get fit. So I built one club, and I sold enough memberships in 90 days to cash flow that business for the year. I mean, the economics were just unbelievable. And that was in an urban market. And I was so pleasantly surprised by it. I said, look, I'm going to build a mid-sized club. And I did it. I built a club in a mid-sized town, same performance. I sold enough memberships in 90 days to cash flow for the year. Now I'm really intrigued by it. And then I built one in a small town, little town of 3,500 people. And I thought to myself, this thing is no way is it going to work. But I needed to know. I was really curious. And I went in that small town. The unit level economics, Michael, were right in line. And I sold enough memberships in 90 days. And here's the punchline. In that small town, my rent was $1,000 a month, and that included utilities. So I always tell people, it's not what you take in the front door, it's what you take out the back door. So I needed about 180 memberships to cash flow in that little town. I sold about 400 memberships. So that little town was generating a business that was kicking out about $80,000 a year free cash flow, right? So it was at that point, Michael, I knew that I had a tiger by the tail. And at that point, I hired the one thing that I did very well. When I went to file my franchise documents, I had one of the best franchise counsels in the country. And I didn't cut any corners. I built it. I always say, think small, be small. So I built this thing on a foundation that was rock solid. And I knew that what the paperwork and the documentation I'd done was right on point. Now, did I know at the time I was going to have, thousands of clubs? No, I didn't.
Right.
But I knew I was preparing myself to get there.
Well, what was your initial thought when you were thinking about Snap Fitness from the very beginning? What was your vision?
Well,
and where is it now compared to
the first one I did, the first club that I built it for this guy that was a friend of mine that ran my big clubs for 10 years. Yeah. So I did it as a favor for him. And I didn't know that the thing was going to kick ass like it did. Right. Okay. Yeah. And literally what I did is I took a page out of the hotel playbooks. Early on, the product that I developed, they were only staffed about 15 to 20 hours a week. Now it's a different product because it's evolved, because consumer expectations have evolved. But I built the one club. It performed well, and then I built 2 and 3. Once I got into franchising, the first year, I think I opened 12 clubs, and it was all pretty much to friends and family. Okay, and that was the first 12. Every one of those clubs performed at the same level. All the operating manuals, everything I had done and documented. I wrote every manual, everything, and I was really meticulous to detail. because I didn't leave
Yeah.
anything to chance. And I always used McDonald's as my template, saying, look, I mean, I had a sign configuration. So when you went into your space, you knew exactly where every sign was supposed to be posted. I had the lighting configuration, where the equipment is placed. I even selected the equipment for you, so you had a nice diversity. I didn't leave anything to chance, right?
Right.
And I said,
Right.
look,
Don't
this is
assume
my
anything.
model.
Yeah.
Yeah, the door access system, everything. So I said, look, if you're going to get into this franchise, I welcome you with open arms, but understand, you don't get a vote. Okay, I'll listen to what you're saying, but look, I've been doing this for 20 some odd years. I'm an expert at it, and I'm not going to let some guy come in who's been working out for the last 10 years. He's some meathead, and he's going to tell me how to make money. Because I always say, do you want to own a gym or do you want to make money?
Yep.
Right? It's a fair question. And I put those guys right back on their heels. I said, look, you know what? I don't have time to fuck around with you.
Yep.
We're going to be real here. I'm going to show you how to make a living at this, not just come in and work out. You know, this isn't going to be a hangout for you and your buddies. We're going to make money.
Now, have you had a franchisee that has gave you a great idea that you weren't thinking of? Can you think of something off the top of your head where somebody came in and said, "Hey, man, I have an idea," and you were open to taking it, and then it turned into something?
You know what? I can't think of any situations like that, but I'm sure that there were ideas that I had that evolved, right? And I don't know if it was franchisees or employees or whatnot. I was always open to people's suggestions, because I think the day that you don't take people's suggestions, you're in big trouble. So, when I hire talent within my company, and I look at myself today, or when I was running the company, as kind of like a casting director. You got all kinds of people come in with multiple skill sets. Mm-hmm. And the type of people that I want to hire were never one-dimensional. I like people that can come in and roll their sleeves up, and you can put them in 4 or 5 different lanes, and they're going to be great because they've got great discipline.
Yeah, utility players.
But they stay in their lane, right? Mm-hmm. So I say, look, here's the part of the field that you need to focus on, and you got to own that piece. So don't worry about what Joe's doing over here. You stay in your lane. And you know what? 5 years after building this company, 1 year I opened 377 stores in 1 year. I mean, imagine that, brother. I'm opening a store more than one a day. Okay. Somewhere around the world. And you know what? When you walk through my office, people were not running around with their hair on fire. And I tell you what, the same system I had when I was opening 3 clubs a month is the same when I was opening 30 clubs a month, because all I did was plug in more resources, more human resources to keep the ball moving down the field.
Right. Yeah.
And I controlled everything. I controlled everything. I had my own real estate division. I had my own construction division. I mean, I didn't leave anything to anyone else. So
they would travel. The construction crews would travel all over the country and build their clubs.
You got it. Or we have contracting companies that have relationships with things, and because we give them a total blueprint, step by step, chronological order. I mean, I made this thing like building health clubs for dummies. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'd give it to the contractor and I'd say, look, you know what? Don't put the equipment in until your flooring's down. Otherwise, you just increased your workload. So I put everything in chronological order, and I said, just follow this blueprint. If you got any questions, call me. Right.
Yeah.
And for the first 100 stores, I would physically walk in every store before they opened to the public. Every store I would look at, touch it, feel it, make sure that the plants were in the right spot, that the traffic flow was set up to where you could handle traffic.
That's a club a day, brother. That's a club a day.
It was not. Well, 100, the first 100 clubs that I built, it took me about 2 years to get to 100 clubs, 2.5 years. But after that, and what was I doing? I was validating what I had written.
Right.
Okay. And literally I'd give someone the playbook and then I would watch them. Okay. Because to me, if I'm going to give you the playbook and then walk you through the playbook, it's not a playbook. You know what I mean? I could just go in and do it. So they got to follow it. They got to follow the directions, and when people could repeatedly do it, and that's the validation. If you've got a great franchise system, when you can take a bus driver, a stay-at-home mom or dad, a sophisticated entrepreneur, when you can take anybody and teach them how to fish, teach them how to make a living within the wellness space when they have no experience in that space. When you can do that, you've got a legitimate franchise system.
Now you talked about how building the foundation was crucial, obviously, and that is crucial. Speak about how culture plays a role in the growth of your company and where it came from.
Big difference. The culture I learned early on when I would watch my dad in his grocery store. One thing I appreciate about my father, his employees were so loyal to him, and I'll tell you why. You would see my dad, there was no job that he wouldn't do. One minute you'd see him shoveling snow. Next minute he'd be stocking shelves. You'd see him behind the cash register. You'd see him taking out the groceries. Then you'd see him in the office doing the books. He didn't put himself above anything. So everybody knew that he's a man's man. He's got grit, which is a great word. And people were just loyal. And they, literally, I looked at that and I said the same thing. This is how I'm going to roll. That I'm not going to be a dictator. I'm going to be a good listener. I'm going to hire great talent. And I'm going to let them know that, I'm their boss, but I'm their friend. And when I cast someone in a role, I give them the ability to make mistakes because that's where they're going to grow. But, I put them in, I analyze their skill set, and then I put them in a place where they can thrive. And that's what people want. People want to feel like they have opportunity within your company, that they're going to live and die by their own sword, which is great. And then when they make mistakes, I don't browbeat them and say, you do that again, you're going to lose your job. That's a bullshit way to get people to lead people. When I would sit down in my boardroom with my different division heads, it would tear them up when I would say, you know what, you guys, I guess we're average. I thought we were great, but we're an average company. They would hate that. It was like a father talking to their kids.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I love it.
Because they know that we were nothing. We were overachievers. You know.
Yeah.
So they love that, and I co-signed for many of their homes, for their cars. I get to see them have their first child, buy their first home, buy their first new car. You remember those days?
Yeah, man.
And so it's really, for me, I always say to my employees, I used to tell them, understand what you're witnessing here. You have a front row seat to the American dream. I want you to reflect on that, how unique this is, that you're literally coming into a company that where we took an idea and we blew it up into one of the largest wellness brands in the world. You had a front row seat to it, right?
Yep.
Because it doesn't happen every day. I don't want people to miss the moment. And just like myself, missing the moment of vicariously watching somebody buy their first car or home or have their first child. I mean, God, that's awesome. Is there anything sweeter than that?
Yeah. Like I have 30 employees right now. We run a mortgage company in the Mid-Atlantic region in Miami called Nations Lending. Yeah. And we have 30 plus employees now, but I'm seeing some things. This past year has been a really turning point for us, and we've exploded. Our business just exploded, and I'm watching each individual person. Everybody's made more money than they've ever made in their life, and each individual person, we have such a great culture that they share their wins together, and some of the stuff that they're saying and accomplishing for themselves and their families just blows me away. And I'm sitting back just like tickled to death, because this is what I do it for. I can do a lot of things to make money,
Absolutely.
But
that's awesome, right?
Yeah, that's a great feeling, man.
It's so sweet.
So was there a stage in your business where it started to snowball, where it was just in a good way, out of control growth? Like you were like, holy cow. Or was
I never had a holy cow moment, because, you could see, well, like when someone would sign a franchise agreement, you could see the snowball. All right. You could see it. So you could see that you might have you might have 50 sold licenses. They're out looking for real estate. So the first step is you have to sell the franchise itself. The second is you have to be in lease negotiations and then sign the lease. So that process there is fairly transparent. So you don't get blindsided. You know that if somebody is in the latter stages of getting the lease signed, within a couple of weeks, you're going to have a lease signed, and then construction's off to the races.
Right. Now, what's something you've been inspired by recently with everything that's been going on? What's something that stands out that you've been inspired by?
I get inspired all the time. I mean, I love watching, I love entrepreneurs that they've had to come through some adversity and they're thriving, or they're in the middle of a firestorm and they don't cower. They're not under their desk in the fetal position. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you got to appreciate all of those moments as well, because it's not all up and to the right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah. 100%. So I love so I really love and appreciate all of those moments. And it's not, seeing other people win. I love that. I vicariously can appreciate that. But being an entrepreneur, as you know, brother, that it's all those things that come with it, the rise and the falls and the rise and the falls, it ebbs and flows, and that's business.
Yeah. And
it's not for the faint of heart.
And in your position, I interviewed Grant Cardone the other day, and I asked him this question, and it intrigued me. So I want to start asking it to everyone because his answer really intrigued me. But when you're by yourself, what are some of the things you say to yourself, or what are some of the things that are going through your head when you're by yourself and nobody else is around, or when you're by yourself?
You know what? Well, I'm in a little different place because I stepped down as the CEO of my company that I founded a year ago, January. Mm-hmm. So I'm in a little different place now. I'm very diversified. I've got a lot of real estate, and I own a luxury camp in the Serengeti. Just really radical diversity, music festivals.
Awesome.
So what do I think about? I give thanks a lot. I mean, as I live my life today, I'm much different than I was when I was 50. When I was 50.
Shit, wait, hold up. You look like you're like in your late 40s, brother.
Fuck, I'm 58.
Damn.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, being around the gyms, man.
Yeah. It's a work in progress. I'm telling you straight up.
Yeah.
So, for me, and I'll tell you straight away that the last 30 years, I was chasing money. Okay, and just being brutally honest with you, I was chasing money, and there was no plan B for me. So fear of failure played a big part of it. And so I just worked my ass off, failing was not an option. Well, then once you win, and for me, winning was my bank account, right? When I can look at my bank account and, today I'm a 9-figure net worth guy, right? So when I look at what all the assets and things, I know that going in the food line is not a reality for me. So I reflect and give thanks to what an unbelievable life I've had. And then I think about now, what does the next 50 years look like for me? Well, how do I want to show up every day?
What's your legacy, right?
Yeah, I don't need to go. That's why I do a lot of mentoring and consulting. I don't charge anything for it. Everything that I do, I'm doing a gig tomorrow, and everything that they pay me, it goes to my foundation. So I give away 100% of it. So I'm done making money. I just started a CBD company, and that's going to make money, but I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it for the challenge. So
yeah, because that was my next question. After you got out and stepped down, did you feel any sense of insufficient, like?
Yeah, it's really different. When you're working your sack off for the last 35 years, and you step down because you want to do something else. There's kind of a surreal moment there. I mean, when you're packing up your box out of the office and you're walking out, it's surreal, dude. I'm not kidding you. I mean,
retirement from football or baseball or something like the pros are.
I'm like, wow, what? This is something I didn't envision it that way, but that's how it went down, right? So, and then I purposely, because I know myself, I said, Pedro, don't jump back into something, okay? So I made myself chill for 40 days. So
no rebound relationships.
40 days and 40 nights.
It don't work.
I took it right out of the Bible. I said, I'm gonna chill. I'm not gonna do anything for 40 days, 40 nights. I'm just gonna chill and reflect on what an unbelievable life I've had. So now what do I do? I'm really laid back. I'm really chill. I'm much more chill today than I was when I was in the fire.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And my perspective is on point because I've done so much, right? I mean, I've international business. I'm in 28 countries. So as I sit back and I think about what does the next chapter look like, it would be a shame to take everything that I've learned over the last 30 years, international business, repatriation of capital back to the United States, building a franchise system, motivating people really motivating them to where they feel if a hand grenade comes in the room, they dive on it for you. How do you get that out of people? Right. And so
where did you go when you stepped down for the 40 days? Did you go somewhere?
Well, I moved to Miami for tax reasons, right?
Yep.
Minnesota was where I grew up, and that's about 10% state tax. Miami's 0. So even
Yep.
if you're homeschooled, that math works, right? So
Yep. Yep.
I just said, I'm going to be down there. So I just literally moved back to my lake home here for the summer. I'll be here for 2.5 months, 3 months, and then go back to Miami.
Gotcha.
So, I just do a lot of reflecting, and I do a lot of podcasts now and do a lot of consulting for entrepreneurs. And you know what I love? I love it when I'm mentoring like a 75-year-old person and they're talking about their next deal. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That is
Because
great, man. I love that.
I mean, most of the guys when they're 70, they're thinking it's like the last chapter of their life. And I tell them, hey, look, understand, age is just a number.
Yeah.
So get your head off of that and just go get it. Right.
I don't think I'll ever stop, because, here's the thing. I don't feel like I work,
Right?
it's just not work to me. Now I grind and I'm hard and I'm intense. I'm an animal,
Yeah.
but I think there's always this, I don't know if you have experienced this, but there's always this, like a false sense of security. I feel like we just had 2 record months in our company. Like we doubled. I mean, it's just amazing, the numbers. Right.
Yeah.
And I still feel like, guys, we're not there yet, man. It's I don't know what it is, man.
It's a good, you know what? I think it's healthy to run your business with a little bit of paranoia, right?
Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah. Paranoia.
Right. You know what I mean? I think it's perfectly healthy. Why? Because it keeps you're always chasing it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And the day that you stop chasing it is the day that you should probably, maybe think about something else.
Yeah.
And, the word retirement, I don't even like the word. They got to come up with a new word. I always say I'm transitioning. I'm transitioning to my next thing.
Yep.
Peter, well, how's retirement? I'm not retired. I'm transitioning. What are you going to? Well, I don't know. We'll figure that out.
Yep.
Right? Because things come along. I say no to, 50 deals a year for sure. Easily. More than that even.
Yeah.
So it's good stuff, man.
Well, leave us with a final word. I know we're at the 30-minute mark here, and I want to hear a final word, and then how can my audience connect with you?
Yeah. So a final word is, look, the people out there that are trying to tell you that it's easy, when you see those people out there fanning $100 bills, asking you for $20, $30 a month, and they're standing in front of jets they don't own and Lamborghinis they don't own, I tell you what, it's all bullshit. It's all smoke and mirrors. There's no easy way. All right. There's no easy money out there, and there's no hacks. In other words, there's no shortcuts. So just understand, you gotta roll up your sleeves and willing to go chase it, and willing to sacrifice and without compromise. And it's not easy, and you're gonna fail along the way, and that's okay, because if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. So that's one of the reasons, Michael, that I got into social media, is because I was encouraged to get into it, but as I started looking around, there was so much fake bullshit out there. People standing in front of jets and things that they didn't own, right? Fake things. So in fact, I did a shot in front of my Falcon 50, that and my Ferrari, and I told my PR company, I'm never going to do this again, because it's not how I roll. Right? They said I needed to do it for validation, because everybody else was talking about it and I've done it. So, but I told them, so whenever you see pictures of my cars and my stuff, it was all from a few days of shooting. It was one shoot. They don't even ask me anymore, because they know I get totally pissed about it.
Yeah. Oh man. Peter Taunton, thank you so much for joining us on the What Are You Made Of podcast. I appreciate it, man. And listen, my friends call me C-Roc, so you can call me C-Roc, man.
I love it. Hey, let me tell your guys where to find me. Okay.
Yeah.
It's really easy on Instagram. That's the only place I post. Instagram, it's Peter _Taunton, TAUNTON, and that flows right into my Facebook and into my YouTube, stuff like that. But Instagram is where I do my stuff.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on. If there's anything your boy C-Roc can do for you in the future, man, all you got to do is reach out. I'm on Instagram as well, and just check with me for anything. I don't care if you need a speaker, you need somebody just to whatever you need, man. I'm here for you.
Yeah, no, hey, a pleasure meeting you, C-Roc, and let's follow each other on Instagram. And when you put this together, let me know. I'll repost it and tag you, and keep building the dream.
And I come down to Miami probably once a month when things are normal, so I'll pop in and maybe we'll grab a drink or dinner sometime.
That'd be awesome.
All right? Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
You're the best. Take care.
Thank you. You guys have been listening to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy Mike C-Roc. Please go subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. Or go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Mike C-Roc, Ciorrocco, and tell your friends and family. Until next time, it's your boy C-Roc. What are you made of?